Hi, everyone. I'm so glad you are joining me today. And I have a guest that I want to introduce you to. I have Kimberly Grustas with us, and she started Good For You Girls to keep girls away from toxic chemicals during puberty. With over 15 years in the natural product and nutrition industries, Kim had advanced knowledge of the dangers of even trace levels of estrogenic chemicals during the delicate transformation from girlhood to adult. Kim's two daughters had asthma and allergies, and when they were entering puberty, she was appalled at all the ingredients in products marketed to young girls. The lack of safe, effective, and age appropriate products, combined with her knowledge about the lowering age of puberty, was all she needed to launch her transformative brand to help other moms keep their daughters safe. Kim has been called the OG of tween skincare, and it's not hard to see why. Good For You Girls was the first line of clean skincare dedicated to girls in the US and is a thought leader in helping moms connected to their daughters during these precious years. So, thank you for joining us, Kim.
Thanks for having me, Cynthia.
Yes. Well, one of the things that I'm sure causes anxiety for all of my young clients and listeners, and maybe even the parents of those teenagers, and we're going to be talking about girls mostly today, but puberty is one of those things that I am sure is causing young people to feel anxious. Part of it is just because we don't always know what to expect. And of course, everyone's different. So even if we read a list of things that happen, maybe it wouldn't happen to us or it would happen differently. But what are some of the signs that parents can be looking for, or even our young listeners could be looking for as like that puberty is starting to happen?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and you're right. Puberty starts at very different ages, usually from 10 to 13. It's also important to understand that that age has shifted dramatically.
Mm,
Because the earlier age of puberty is 10. It's unheard of. In the 1940s, it was 14. So we
mm,
have seen a significant shift in the age to which girls are entering puberty. But we also need to understand that puberty, when we talk about puberty, we ultimately think about the reproductive system, right?
mhm,
But puberty starts in the brain with the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland,
mm,
releasing chemicals that then start this beautiful cascade down to the reproductive. But puberty also affects every single system: blood, bone, neurological. It's not just about your reproductive and menstruation and that sort of thing. So that's really a wonderful sign if parents are understanding that puberty it almost happens 2 years earlier than
mm.
menstruation, right?
Okay.
So, and breast development used to happen with puberty and with menstruation, but now it's happening so much earlier. And this is because of the elevated levels of estrogenic chemicals that girls are being exposed to.
Mm,
But there, you asked, like, what are some of the early signs? Flakiness, achiness, bones achy. People will, like, they'll have the pains in their legs or pains in their side. There's a lot of growth spurts. There's sleeplessness, because we also know that melatonin is shifting as well. So we get, they're not sleeping so well. We also talk about, that sort of that moodiness
mhm,
right in there. There's a sense of a lack of control, or, they say the girl, the outbursts and things like that, because they're feeling out of control. And because, again, it's all of those hormones that are in the
mhm,
brain. We also have one of the, I think the earliest signs is usually happens around middle school for girls. Is It's called, when the oxytocin is again released from the hypothalamus to the pituitary gland, we call that the love hormone or the
mm,
cuddle, right? And so girls are now attaching, right? So in grade school, they have friends and things like that. But when they get to middle school, those attachments become a little bit more intense,
mm.
right? What people say matters more and all of those things. So I think that's one of those, the bone growth, the aches and pains, the sleeplessness. Body odor, again, doesn't necessarily come with those. The body odor can start from different functions in the body, but some of those things, their attachment and their emotions with that are really the beginning signs that something is starting.
Mm,
And that this, you know what I mean? It's not just about their reproductive. So they could have all
right.
of these, but no breast buds forming, right? Or no obvious signs of, pubic hair or armpit hair or odor, things like that. But those behavioral things are super important to pay attention to.
Mm. Well, I have a daughter, and I remember the moodiness was the first thing that I noticed. And I
Mhm.
remember thinking, is it time yet? Because I knew that, that was a sign that something was happening. And I think she was moody for several years before a period happened, or, we were really noticing other kinds of things happening. But that totally makes sense that if that's happening, the brain and hormones and different chemicals are going around, the moodiness would show up before any of the other kinds of things, or could show up before any of the other kinds of things. Now, when you were talking about estrogenic, I think that's the word you used, like chemicals, what what does that look like? And how is that in things like products that kids would use? Like
Yeah,
how does that
it's
work?
absolutely fascinating. It really is. So your body is an organic, organic machine. It's like, I don't know if I can use organic and machine, but an
Yeah.
organic being, right?
Mm-hmm.
Organic thing. And so just we know that when we eat a carbohydrate, right, your body knows what to do with it. If you eat a
Hmm.
protein, your body knows what to do with it. If you eat fats, your body knows how to process them. So when you're introducing to your body both internally, meaning you're ingesting things with chemicals, or you're putting it on your largest organ, because your skin is your largest organ.
Mm,
65% of what you put on your body goes right into your bloodstream. When it gets there, whether it's internal or external, your body does not know what it is. So the
mm,
closest chemical compound, if there's dyes, if there's synthetic fragrance, if there's anything of a chemical nature that's being exposed to your body, the closest chemical compound is estrogen. So the body says, oh, must be estrogen. And so
mm.
that's why we call it estrogenic, meaning it's mimicking estrogen in the body. So that's how the body is reading it,
Oh, okay.
as estrogen. Yeah, it's putting in it in that little compartment. And boys are not immune as well, right? So boys are getting signals of estrogen as well. And there is an increase in puberty boys. And you'll notice that boys will develop breast buds in middle school. You'll see a lot of boys with breast buds because they're getting a high level of estrogen as well. And then what happens when their natural testosterone kicks in, it will bring back that estrogen back down. So
Mm,
it's not that it's just that estrogen that, is our girls, it's all around. And we're now learning, foods and pesticides and all of these things that the American diet, we're consuming with our children.
mhm,
It is that our children are consuming is having a really detrimental effect. And it's one thing to say, okay, it's just a little trace amount, just a little trace amount, little trace amount, but it's not, right?
mhm,
It's the those little trace amounts adding up. And
mhm,
so puberty is the second largest growth in a child's development aside from infancy, right? There
mm,
are so many systems at play that are growing. And the stress that our children are also under today is extremely different than it was in our day,
mhm.
right? You have to be the best student, you have to be the best, friend, you have to be the best athlete. The
Yeah.
athletics are so important in their world, but the stress that those things, and those are the adrenals. So the adrenal glands, I mean, we know that as women because,
Mhm,
oh, you're burning out your adrenals. Well, you're also with children. I mean, their adrenal glands are actually really working a lot harder than children of any other generation did.
mm,
And so that's also playing, and a lot of body odor and the pituitary, the body odor and pubic hair and things like that are actually
mhm,
from the adrenal glands when you see that development as well. So you have the brain and you have the adrenals and it kind of meet in the middle. And it's just
mhm,
this wonderful, it's just this wonderful, I love it. I just think it's
mhm,
fascinating. And
mhm,
part of why I love it is the communication around it with girls. I think that when they know how tremendous their bodies are, they really appreciate it. So, going back to how do you talk to your daughter? I remember starting to talk to my daughters with that growth, the pencil mark on their door,
Mhm.
right? Oh, you grew, you grew, you grew. And starting the word hormones or teaching about hormones early on as it's a hormone that's helping you grow.
Mhm.
So, it's not this magic bean thing. Right?
Yeah, right.
Kids tend to know, oh, what is this? Why am I, right? So that's what it becomes their friend.
Mhm.
Right. So hormones are not a scary word, and that hormones are not associated necessarily with your reproductive system. They are,
Mhm.
but that's not the first time that a
Mhm.
child should be introduced to that word. So
Mhm.
anytime there's significant growth or along these lines, always we should talk about in positivity and how amazing that your body is, and know what's happening, right? That your
Mhm.
body is taking care of these things as it should,
Yes.
right? That this is not something that is happening to you. This is something that's
Mhm.
happening for you.
Mm.
And if we watch the language and how we speak about it, I think that that really helps our kids feel more comfortable in their bodies,
Mm.
because there is that, when they're little, they just move, right? They're not thinking
Mhm.
about, and so that insecurity around what's happening can be really traumatizing if they're not prepared. And even to say, it's okay.
Mhm.
It's okay to feel scared and nervous and want to scream, want to cry, want to
Yeah.
whatever, because that's just part of things that are working out. That's what your body is supposed to be doing. It's
Mhm.
not a bad thing or an odd thing. And that comfort, when you can speak to them about that early with the little stuff, I know that, again, the mother-daughter relationship is so much easier later because they're not afraid to talk to you, and they're getting that honest talk from you, so that the bigger stuff is easier.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love that you talk about being positive about it because I do the same thing with emotions. Anxiety tends to get a bad name, and we say we shouldn't get anxiety, or we shouldn't be angry, or we shouldn't be sad, or and that all emotions are normal, and
Hmm.
all our emotions, we're going to have all of them. So we need to embrace them. And what are they here to tell us? And how can we allow them to be in our bodies? And this is exactly what you're saying, is that this is part of how our body works.
Hmm.
And there's nothing bad about it. And, how can we look at it positively? How is it helping us grow? And I think you mentioned to me something about superpowers, or like this puberty is like a superpower. So tell us, is that kind of like what you're talking about? Is
Yeah,
that
there's a couple of things that strike me when we're talking about this, but yes, I think, when you are able to tell a young girl the exact thing that's going on in her body, her bones, her blood, her brain, all of these functions, and they say, oh my gosh, isn't it amazing what your
Mhm.
body's doing? And you're at soccer practice, and you got an A on that test, and you did all of these things, right? I mean,
Mhm.
it's a wonderful thing that they feel a sense of pride in what's happening to them. And they feel really, really, feel really, really good about it. And it's also, when we talk about what's happening in their brain, and that we talk about that anxiety and all of that. Also, what's happening, which is really, really cool. And when I give talks to girls at this time, you've heard of sixth sense,
Mhm.
right? You have a sixth sense.
Mhm.
And I think we as women are really born with intuition and
Mhm.
awareness. And I believe at the same time that girls are going through puberty, they're developing those skills, right? So learning to listen to themselves. If they get us, the hair on their arms, or something's not feeling right,
Mhm.
it's not right. Doesn't matter what somebody else says, right? I think this is a
Mhm.
wonderful conversation that we can be having at that time with girls, is that your body's doing some really cool stuff in the brain, and you are ultra aware of
Mhm.
what other people, right? It starts with the empathy thing, but it's also that danger. right?
Mm.
We're also built, and I think that's when girls are also developing those skills,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I
Mm-hmm.
say it is a superpower. It's a superpower. It's happening in your bodies, but it's also a superpower that they're developing these mental acuities
Mm.
that maybe not necessarily their male counterparts will have, right? I think that's an
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love that because I think women are amazing. And I think
Mm-hmm.
really girls, when they really understand that they are unique and they are beautiful inside out, and that they can listen to these things. And even in that moment where if something's bothering you, that's part of, right, the skill set that we learn. Well, what would you do in this situation? Let's take a minute, let's take a step back. And girls can develop those skills and not only listen to what's going on in their head, but they can also feel what their body is telling them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And all the best coaches will say, well, how does it feel to you? What is that reaction that you're having when you're making a decision? What is
Mm-hmm.
the reaction that you're having in your body? Right? Is your breathing start tight, get tight? So this is really when girls are developing these very womanly skills.
Mm-hmm.
And to acknowledge that, I think is really a cool thing because they
Mm-hmm.
don't know what it is. They just know they're feeling something different.
Mm-hmm.
And to give them permission as a parent to explore that and know what that feels like and to understand what they're going through from a feeling perspective, it really is comforting and a permission based.
Mm.
I think so. It's really a wonderful time. And I do. It's totally a superpower. And I also, menopause has been a big conversation these days too, because, our generation is sort of lied to and in the dark on
Right.
all this. Well, you think of how powerful the menopause is. Well, it's also, if you think it fits, puberty is that in reverse, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, interesting fact in that vein is when a woman goes through menopause, her bones, right, are actually losing, right, the amount of strength. Well, that's the same amount of strength that a girl's bones are developing during puberty.
Mm. Oh my gosh.
It's it's in and out. It's an in and
Mm-hmm.
out. So from a parenting perspective, a mother-daughter perspective, what a beautiful thing that brings us together.
Yeah.
Right. And, I was an older mom. And so I was, when my daughters were, late, teens, late teens or whatever. So they'd all kind of gone through puberty, but still going through those issues. I was going through perimenopause.
Mm.
I was like, oh my gosh, the similarities are bizarre.
Yes.
Right.
I've been
So
thinking about that this whole time when you were talking. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is me now.
it is, it is so similar. So we just have so
Mm-hmm.
much to relate on. And, it's important as parents to get on their communication level and listen as well. I mean, we are so knowledgeable, we are so wise, but they have to learn a lot of this stuff, right? These experiences themselves. And we're not too old to learn as well, right? So
Right.
I think listening and patience is always is a super important skill when you have a daughter going through puberty.
Yes, I agree. And I've been hearing about, I didn't ever do this, so I wish I could go back and do it, but like moms having period parties, or I don't know for sure what they call them, but like it's just like the celebration of you're a woman or you're going into womanhood or
Yeah,
whatever.
I'm
And I
I'm
thought,
a
how
little
fun.
bit more well, so I'm not into the whole period party thing. I think it's a very personal thing, and
Well,
I don't
right.
want
Each
to
person
made
would
it by
have to
my
do it
daughter.
them ways.
But I'll tell you what I did. So we were actually going to the American Girl store
Mm.
with a friend of ours, and my older daughter, was 11. She got her period that morning,
Oh, wow.
11 years old,
Mm.
and she came to me. Obviously, it was no, and I gave her $100,
Mm.
nice crisp $100 bill. I happen to have one
Oh.
lying around. And I was like, sweetie, we made it a big deal. I said, we're going to go celebrate, but we have plans today. I said, but
Mm-hmm.
this is yours. Buy anything you want today. And she
Mm-hmm.
wanted it. She already had American Girl doll, but she wanted another one or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And she walked around the whole store and she came to me and she goes, Mom, I don't think I want to buy another doll. I think that like I'm done with my dolls.
Mm.
Right, because she felt like this was her next, right? Because we had been taught, we knew And so subsequently, on the other side, my youngest daughter was a very late bloomer.
Mm.
I knew she had her period. She didn't want me to know. Of course, I knew. And, she was well prepared for her because of her sister and
Mhm.
all that stuff. And her sister and I would laugh about it. We'd like, oh, we know. And she's like, yeah, we know. And like, you got her. And she's like, yeah, I got her, whatever. And she didn't know about the $100 because
Mm.
my other daughter didn't tell her. So I said to my daughter one day, I said, if you tell me, you get $100. So she says, okay, I have my period. I'm like, okay, great. Here's $100. So again, that's, I love that story because but you do celebrate it. And
Mhm.
also, we again, the body, the changes. And I tell my moms, when your daughter needs her first bra, I see, and again, nothing against Walmart. This isn't a dig on Walmart.
Mhm.
You go wherever your daughter wants to buy her first bra.
Mhm.
I don't care if you buy every other bra from anywhere, you know what I mean?
Right.
You buy the package from Fruit of the Loom. I don't
Yeah.
care. But the first one, you make it special,
Oh,
right?
that's
Go
fun.
to lunch, you buy it, right? Because
Mhm.
she'll never forget that. And
Mhm.
that is a celebration.
Yes.
But yes, like, with all the supplies and all of that, which should be purchased first, it's the little containers and putting them in a little place. And so it's not
Mhm.
just, yeah, we're throwing it in the cabinet. It's going to be there when you need it. Like
Right.
they're because you just want them to not fear it and,
Mhm.
the dread of it when it does
Yeah.
come. And
Yeah.
you have to also remember the influence. I mean, even before influencers, girls, the older girls, and they hear them, and we have to be very careful about how what we're exposing them to, what they're exposed to, because when girls get in their 20s or they get older, they can certainly, there is a sort of a negative talk, right? It's like
Mhm.
holy heck, right? And again, they've already been through it, right? So
Mhm.
if a younger person is hearing this, it can create a fear or the
Mhm.
anxiety, right? Or the
Mhm.
anxiety around it.
Mhm.
And it looks so different to everybody. And
Yeah.
even the menstruation part of it, there is no, today it's almost, there is no one, it's all different. Like
Mhm.
every woman is different.
Mhm.
So, but I love, and also one thing is super important too, is for women, for moms. I mean, you may, know when your cycle is, but I love, and I'd love to find it. And if I can find it, I'll put it up on my website. But there is a wheel. It's a cycle wheel.
Mm.
It's happening for a girl, for ovulation. It'll say the different phases, and it will also go through the different emotions that are happening
Oh, cool.
during that phase. And so, it's good to know, like when you're tracking things, like, okay, this part, I'm not gonna feel so great.
Mhm.
Maybe don't plan an event, and if
Mhm.
you're knowing your daughter and how her cycles are working, you can say, hey, come on, let's go get our nails done, or let's go for ice
Mhm.
cream. And you can kind of write, and then when you need to, plan an event, or you've got
Mhm.
something and you want her to feel good about herself. So it's very, very true. And
Mhm.
to ignore a lot of those natural things that she's going through, that she may not know how to control. The older we get, we learn, we learn to control those things, and because we have to still do. But yeah, when they're younger, it's very hard for them to understand, because there's not a clear understanding of what's happening
Mhm.
in their bodies. So if you know what's going on and how that's working, you're better prepared to help her through that.
Well, I have actually been seeing that where people, I think there's even coaches that are coaching people to work with their cycle
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
that they have their creative time at a certain part
Hmm.
of their cycle, and then they have their more resting time, and they
Absolutely.
actually create everything that they do around that. And I
Mhm.
love that. And I even heard, and I don't, I think there's probably not too much research on it yet because no one ever cared about menopause before, but that we even still continue to go through the same cycles even when we're not having a period anymore. And I thought that was fascinating. And I've actually started noticing that about myself. I'm trying to really hone in on, oh, this week I was really tired, but then the next week I'm ready to go again. And, so I'm still experiencing that same type of changes in, how tired I am or how
Yeah, your
rejuvenated I
hormones
am.
are
Yeah.
amazing. I mean,
Yeah,
again,
it is
they're your
fascinating.
friends. They're your
Hmm.
friends, right?
Hmm.
They're your friend. They're not the enemy.
Yeah.
And that's again that conversation. And I have gone through menopause. I was very early in my menopause. And when I was having the night sweats,
Mm-hmm.
hot flashes, and all of that stuff, I never said to myself, oh my God, like, oh gosh. I would say, like, I train my brain to go, yeah, girl, don't let go yet. Don't let go yet. Like, I was in super positive. I'm like, oh, she's still there. She's
Yep.
fighting, hang on. Like, so it was like, she'd
Yeah.
let me know she's still there. And, it
Yeah.
was, everything's a she in my world, like we call
Yes.
everybody she. But again, it's that positive because your brain is so, right. It's how we
Mm-hmm.
speak to ourselves. And that's part
Yeah.
of the love, the self-love and all of that stuff, not to sound like whatever, but we have to speak that way, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the cup is always half full and half empty.
Yes.
Right? I
Yes.
am just a true believer in that. And
Mm-hmm.
it does get you over a lot of those stressful anxiety times. And yeah, I just think it is truly remarkable what the body. And here's the other thing too, is when you're aware of what the body is doing, the other side is when it's not going right, something is wrong, like, that's when you deal with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're knowing what to expect, when something isn't quite right, right? You
Mm-hmm.
can say, okay, what's going on here, right? And so
Yes.
even my younger one, she had breast buds at 5 years old.
Oh, wow.
So I had to bring her to an endocrinologist where, like, okay, what's going on here? And it
Mm-hmm.
was precocious puberty, but it was also a growth. She's also 5'9".
Mm.
Is really tall. So her hypothalamus and the pituitary were working overtime. And
Oh,
she
okay.
had a lot of leg pain,
Mm.
that ate like screaming in the middle of the night leg pain because
Mm.
her bones were growing so fast. Boys, that happens to a lot. The boys will have that big growth
Mm-hmm.
spurt
I've heard of
and
that.
that the leg pain, but girls are have that as well. And a lot of the cramping in their sides, the stitching, like that's
Mm-hmm.
also a big thing with
Mm-hmm.
girls. But I was aware, right? And like,
Yeah.
okay, this is not normal, right? So let's
Mm-hmm.
get it checked out. It did pass. It was that surge of growth, but she did go through a really, I mean, she was heads and shoulders over her classmates in,
Mm.
in kindergarten. And it was,
Oh,
again,
wow.
no whole nother social issue. But when you're aware of how things are supposed to be normal,
Mm-hmm.
when things go awry, you can address it. You don't have to wait until it's kind
Mm.
of too late to address an issue. And you can learn it, just share that learning. And nobody's asking to be an expert, but there's so much information out there today.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And,
yeah.
if something says, if it kind of glosses over or makes it, dump it. Like, don't even continue reading the article, right?
Mm-hmm.
Find another one, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and share what you've learned. I think it's just that's the best thing a mom can do to really normalize the conversation.
Yeah, I love that. Well, Kimberly, tell us about your skincare line. What do
Oh,
you
great.
have available and what is it like? And
Yeah,
tell us about
so
that.
again, you had addressed that my daughters were both had severe asthma and allergies, and I was working in the nutrition business at the time. And so we could not have any fragrances, synthetic dyes, anything that would upset their airways because scents were big triggers in their airways. And when my oldest daughter was 8 years old, she wanted this bath set from Hannah Montana.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Hannah Montana, and it was made in China and it was toxic. And that's
Mm-hmm.
when my light bulb went off. And I said, okay, I can do so much better. So I started the line with facial care. And what we want to do with girls is we want to keep it simple
Mm-hmm.
because we don't want to overwhelm, right? So I have facial care products, cleanser, toner, moisturizer. I also have toner pads so
Mm.
they can throw it in their gym bag or dance bag, whatever. And then I have deodorant, a roll-on deodorant, that 2 cents, that works on a probiotic technology. So it's
Oh.
probiotic. So it actually eats the bacteria that causes the body odor.
Oh, cool.
Again, it's not them that's stinking, right? This is important for them
Right.
to know. They are not stinking. It's the bacteria that has the smell to it. And then subsequently bathing, which is a huge part of puberty. They
Mm-hmm.
need to learn how to bathe, and rubbing a bar of soap over your body in the shower is not bathing. And so we also have body wash, which, on a face cloth or a sponge really
Hmm.
gets the act of touching your body, moving it on your body. It also helps with lymphatic drainage under your
Mm.
armpits. So when you're using a face cloth, and this is a note for all women of all ages, when you're washing your body, you need to scrub your armpits because that's part of your lymphatic drainage.
Mm.
And so face cloths, I love it. I don't think anything harsher. You don't need, these harsh things. Sometimes dry brushing or whatever, we get older if we're excessively dry. But you have to remember your skin is an organ and you can over damage it, right? That's what we
Mm.
don't want to do. And then the lotion. So we have a body lotion that really holds in that moisture, helps with that moisture barrier to
Mhm.
keep your skin super healthy. And that's again the moisturizer as well, even on oily skin when they're going, right? So our moisturizer, it's a beautiful formula. It's lightweight, doesn't clog pores, but it actually helps thin out the sebum.
Mm.
And so it's a matte. And we always tell, we don't care when your daughter starts wearing makeup, that's your issue.
Mhm.
We'd love to give them the advice that they really should start a healthy, routine, a face washing routine before they're going to use makeup.
Mm. I like that.
Couple things will happen is one, their skin is going to love it and it's going to
Mhm.
be, and then they might not want to wear so much makeup.
Right.
You want to understand why they're wearing the makeup, and especially if they're using it to cover up something. And during they touch their face all the time.
Mhm.
So their hands are dirty, they're in school, they're not washing their hands, they're leaning on their hands on their desk, they're touching their face all the time. So a lot of times the skin issues that they're having are not necessarily hormonal, it's
Mm.
bacterial, right? Their skin is reacting because they're not clearing their pores and the
Mhm.
bacteria is getting, it's a breeding ground,
Yeah.
right? And I don't, one of the things I don't like to see young girls with fake nails. And I
Mm.
know press-on nails or the things are a big thing. That's just bacteria. Like it's just, you know what I mean? It's just a
Mhm.
big thing for me. I just, no, 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 no. We can paint your nails, we can do, but those stick-on thingies there, and oh,
Mhm.
this is just horrible for your skin, right? That's not terrible. But so yeah, and we also have gift sets. So if it's, we sell them and you can buy a whole gift set or you can buy the body wash, body lotion together. And again, we have 2 scents of the lotion, body wash, and deodorant. So one is a powder scent and
Mm.
one is a honeydew. So it's sort of
Oh, that sounds
a
good.
fresh scent.
Mhm.
So
I
yeah,
like it. Well, I
yeah.
am going to put links to all of these things
Thank
in the show notes so people can find these products, find you, see what
you.
else
And
is going on.
if anybody has any questions, if they can just go to the info at Good For You Girls, it will get to me.
Mm.
So if you
Good.
have questions or, my daughter's going through this or this, don't be shy. Please reach out. I'm happy to answer any questions. And I usually say 8 and up. So
Mhm.
people say, I just want to put that out there too. I say 8 and up because sebum production starts around 9.
Mhm.
But we also have girls as young as 6 using the deodorant because it's not harmful. It doesn't hurt them. So if
Mhm.
you're finding that just from activity or whatever, it's a roll on. So it's easy
Mhm.
for them to use. So, but we say 8 and up.
Mhm. Well, it's probably good for them to be in the habit of that self-care even before they actually need it, like where deodorant's concerned.
Yeah.
That way
Well,
they're just used to it.
there is an empowering, and that was part of what I built into Good For You Girls. And my brand is quiet.
Mhm.
I don't scream. It's not, it's very feminine looking. It's not childish. So I try to do that balance between kid and adult because
Mhm.
I wanted girls to know that this is for them,
Mhm.
right? So I try to really, with the products, speak to that. And so that they
Mhm.
feel that it is for them. And, and again, I use my products. A funny story. I got a call from a woman who was running through an airport one day and she's a celebrity. I can't name her name. She's a celebrity. She bought my products for her daughter. She loved them, was using them. She went to take them from her daughter in the morning because she was going on this trip. Her daughter was like, "You can't have those. Those are mine."
Oh my
She
gosh.
literally called me from the airport and she said, "Can you ship them to my hotel?" I have learned to love. And so her daughter started using the products when she was 12
Mhm.
and she's out of college and she actually still orders the product. And
I
it's
love it.
So they, you know what I mean? That's a wonderful thing when
Hmm.
when you can keep a customer happy for that long, it's really great.
Well, yeah, and that age range, like sounds like any age can use these products. It's not
Yeah,
just for
and you
young
really,
teen
again,
girls.
it's a good place to land. And girls like to
Hmm.
try different things. They're experimental, they want to try things, and it's still lovely, when they know and when they start with Good For You Girls, it becomes their fail safe. And they'll try
Hmm.
something else and oh my gosh, that room skin, I'm going to come back. The
Hmm.
worst thing you can do with young skin is overdo.
Yeah.
The harsh chemicals, the harsh acids, all of they don't need anti-aging. Their skin is the goal for women,
Hmm.
right? We
Right.
want their skin, right? And
Hmm.
the other thing that's important to know too is these ingredients that are very harsh in adult products on skin actually make it very sensitive to UV damage
Mm.
because it's really disrupting the barrier function of the skin, which is there to protect,
Hmm.
right, from environmental toxins, but also UV damage. And so that is a huge reason to keep girls away at this age. That sebum production happens for a reason. There's
Hmm.
growth, right? It's protecting from the sun. So we don't want to strip those away. That's ultimately we want to enhance the function of the skin.
Hmm. Oh, that's great. Well, I am so glad you were with us today. This was
Thank
a
you.
great conversation because we haven't really talked about puberty on this podcast at all. And it's definitely one of those things that we need to be talking about to take away that uncertainty about it. When we know why this is happening and that it's actually, just exactly how our bodies are supposed to be, it
Yep,
makes us feel a lot better about what's happening. So I
absolutely.
appreciate that
Thank you so
that
much. This was
information.
great.
Yes. Yeah, thank you so much.